Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge Gomez Sancha. I'm the Chief Development Officer at CARTO. That means that I have the immense privilege of overseeing the amazing work that the product and technology teams do at CARTO. Today I'm going to be talking mostly about one of our products, which is Engine, and all of the work we're doing this year in Engine, but I've decided I'm going to start with, I'm going to honor a long-held CARTO tradition for these talks, which is we, in product and technology talks, we always start talking about Jon Snow. You know who Jon Snow is, right? So not this guy, of course, Jon Snow, the other Jon Snow. This guy, just much more important, and if you don't know who he was an obstetrician, a doctor in London in the 1800s, and he's now hailed as the father of many fields: epidemiology, data journalism, even, of course, location intelligence. And the reason why is mostly because of this map. This is the famous Jon Snow cholera map. He was able to confirm his own theories about how cholera was being spread in London, and it was being spread everywhere, really. And at the time, it wasn't clear how it was being spread, but in 1854, there was a huge cholera spread in cholera outbreak in London. And he basically managed to interview all of the cases that were happening and place them all in a map. And because he had this theory that it was happening through the water, he also placed the pumps on the map. So you can see the black circles on the map are the pumps, and all of the little histograms you can see there are all the cases that were taking place. And within 250 yards of the Broad Street pump, there were more than 500 cases of cholera in only 10 days. So he convinced the authorities to remove the handle from the pump in order to see if effectively that was going to make any impact in the outbreak. And little by little, people that had left the area started returning, and things got back to normal. But still, it took a while to figure out that there were the diapers of some kid that had been left in the water close to the pump and was polluting all of the water. So this is a very beautiful story. It's the last time I'm going to tell it, but it's great to explain what location intelligence is. So if you look at the definition of location intelligence, it totally matches this Jon Snow cholera map. Location intelligence, this is a Wikipedia definition, by the way. Location intelligence, or spatial intelligence, is the process of deriving meaningful insight from geospatial data relationships to solve a particular problem. So I wanted to highlight some words there: process, meaningful insight, and geospatial data relationships. That's exactly what Jon Snow was doing in that map. And I wanted to, it was a simple visualization, but it was providing a great insight, something that you could act on and come to conclusions. Here's a modern example of that, of a simple data visualization that provides insight. This is work from our head of cartography at CARTO, the fantastic Mamata Akela, looking at the impact of the closure of the L train in New York. This one in particular is showing what the best alternatives for everyone living across the L train would be in order to commute to Manhattan. So all of the red ones would be the only ones that would really benefit from getting the alternative buses. The ones in orange would be the ones that would be better served by the M train, and the ones in blue by the A train. So again, a simple visualization, but a very powerful one to tell you about a particular problem. Here's another different example. Here at a glance you can see what's the percentage of income that goes towards paying rent in different places in the United States. So at a glance, you can see that it's crazy in all the places that you could expect, like New York and DC and San Francisco, but also Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami. So again, another example of a simple visualization that in itself is providing location intelligence. And here's another one in New York. This one is showing, trying to analyze the impact of short rental in New York and the incentive that people have to sublet and rent their apartment through Airbnb and other sites. It uses Airbnb listing prices data to calculate how many days does someone need to sublet their apartment in order to pay rent. So you can see that all of the orange and the clear ones, they only need from 1 to 4 days of putting their apartments for rental in places like Airbnb to pay their own rent. So that's a huge incentive to do it. And that what causes is rising prices for people that just want to live in New York. So these were just 3 examples of a modern cholera maps, let's say, modern location intelligence through a simple visualization. But the definition goes on. It says, location intelligence involves layering multiple data sets spatially and/or chronologically for easy reference on a map, and its applications span industries, categories, and organizations. So I want to highlight some words here as well. These words speak to us about other type of location intelligence, which is the solutions that we're starting to talk about a lot at CARTO, and custom applications to solve specific problems in specific industries. Let's look at a couple of examples. This is SalesQuest. This is one of CARTO's solutions. It's a sales analysis tool, and it's beyond visualization. It's enabling not just one insight for one person. It's enabled different insights to different persons, different people, basically, different profiles. There can be sales reps using this application, and they'll have information about what they need to do. But the manager of all of these salespeople will have a different insight derived from using this application, because he'll have a more general view. This is another of our solutions called Reveal. It's a site planning or site selection tool. Again, it uses data to solve a very specific problem, and it's not just about visualization, it's about being able to place different locations on a map and understand whether they would be good places to place your store. So we've seen really 2 ends of a spectrum. So location intelligence can be from a very simple but insightful visualization to a highly specialized solution. You don't see, I don't know if you see it, but there's a white line there that represents the spectrum. So let's look at our products and where those products fit in within this spectrum. We have Builder on one side. Builder is our general purpose visual analysis tool. It enables you to do geospatial analysis over your data sets in a visual way. You can start with a simple layer of data, and you can start adding more data or run analysis over that data and gain insights, always from a visual point of view. And we also have an Engine. Engine is our platform, our set of APIs and tools and libraries to build custom applications that solve specific problems. So we go back to that spectrum. Builder comes at the problem from the side of the simple, insightful visualization. It starts from the visualization, and it helps you more and more get into the specialized problems. And Engine does the opposite. Engine comes from the other side. Engine comes thinking that you are going to need to build a very specific, highly specialized solution, and it needs to enable all that functionality you need in order to do it. So what is an LI app? We talk about LI apps, but what is an LI app? So in order to build an LI app, first, because it's a customized solution, you're going to have users, and those users will need to be authenticated, most probably. You need to check that they have access and authorization to use that application. Then you'll need a base map. You can't just put those points and things in the air. They need to be placed geographically somewhere. Then you'll need external data. For instance, administrative regions or other types of information that are going to help you frame the problem that you're trying to solve. You'll need your own data, the data that you're bringing to the problem that you'll want to represent in this location intelligence application. And then you'll need information, other elements that are going to explain what you're seeing on the screen, like legends, pop-ups, widgets to filter that data. So all of this, you need all of this, and you haven't even started solving any problem yet. You have to solve all of these problems first before you can start focusing on the actual business problem you're trying to solve. So imagine you didn't have to worry about all of that, that you could just focus on solving your business problem. So that is what Engine in 2018 is. This is our focus for Engine this year, okay? So before, Engine was we looked at it as technology. We looked at it as a set of APIs that our developers will be able to use, and they're great. They power Builder as well. But more and more, when we think about how do we make Engine the best location intelligence enabler, let's say, how do we ensure that it's great and then it's the obvious choice to build location intelligence applications? Well, who are the users of Engine? Mostly are the developers, the technical people, the data scientists. So we're looking at this, going at it, putting ourselves at the center of the experience, putting ourselves in the shoes of the users of Engine. So when we think of those users, we think, okay, in order to make Engine the obvious choice, we would need to ensure that these users can develop LI apps faster. So, it doesn't matter how insightful your application is. If your time to market is forever, then you're not going to be very competitive. So it needs to be quick and easy to get those things up and running. They need to be able to develop better and faster apps. So it's not just about the speed of you develop, but the actual application needs to be really good and really fast. And they need to be able to produce deeper insights. So with all of those things, you will have the possibility of doing killer applications. So let's talk about, I'm going to go through some of the things that we're doing this year. Some of them, they're already live, we recently released, and some of them we're working on. But some of the things we're doing in all of these areas. So let's look at the things we're doing for developing LI apps faster. So developers, the first thing they want is documentation and guidance. You'll also need data management and APIs, and libraries and ready-made components. Let's look at those. In documentation and guidance, we just recently launched the Developer Center. The Developer Center, we've always had documentation, but it was almost like something you do when you build something, just put documentation up. We weren't thinking okay, as a developer, when I come to build an application, what is it I'm going to need? How do I make sure that I find all the information, that developers can find all the information they need? So we've developed the Developer Center with that in mind. We wanted a place that it was absolutely clear where you could see all of the libraries that are available, what are they for, all of the APIs that are available, and what are they for, and what you can do with them. That it had complete guides to do all of the things you need to do, not just that, but also the full reference of all of the APIs and all of the libraries. So I wanted to put this first because, hey, it's just documentation, but it highlights how important we think this is, how important CARTO is full of developers, and developers like to do things on their own. The moment they need to start asking questions and how do I do this, is this possible or not, they start wondering whether it's the right tool or not. We want to ensure that all of the information is out there, that it's easy to get going, and this is just the first release. We're only getting started. This will grow into a fully featured help center where you can find information not only about the APIs and engine, but also about Builder and common problems or common pitfalls in not just our products, but in building location intelligence applications. So we're very excited about this. Please check it out and give us feedback, because it's one of our focus this year. In the area of data management and APIs, another thing is, obviously you need data in your application, and you need to be able to manage it quickly, and you need to be able to put it in CARTO quickly. This, when we started with CARTO, having a, 200,000 records data set was already amazing. Now that's nothing, and it's only growing. So this year, something that's coming out very soon is a new endpoint for our SQL API, which is the copy endpoint. There's I don't know if you know Postgres in this room, some of you I'm sure will. There's a functionality, which is the copy instruction, which enables you to basically stream data directly into the database at a very fast speed. So this is going to enable us to upload 1 million records under a couple of seconds. It's going to be a huge improvement compared to what we have today. So that's great news for a lot of the people that are dealing with large data sets. So this is coming out very soon. We're testing it now as we speak, and it'll be in production pretty soon. And then you need the libraries and the ready-made components. Javier de la Torre, our CEO, which we called Jatorre, he talked about this morning about CARTO.js 4.0, so I'm not going to labor too much on it, but the main change of CARTO.js 4.0 in comparison to previous versions is that we focused on making it very powerful for developers, especially because we've seen that when we started, a lot of people didn't know how to make maps, didn't know anything about maps. So CARTO.js was very opinionated, was trying to do a lot of things for the developers, but was it's a bit limiting in when you wanted to do your own things and access the data and do more complex stuff. CARTO.js version 4 solves that problem. It is, we went out, we spoke to the partners, we spoke to a lot of people, and we made it much easier to use for developers and to access the data and to understand what you're doing behind the scenes. This is already in public release, and it'd be great if we got some feedback. And then there's Airship. Again, our library to make widgets and legends and tooltips and all of the UI components that you need in order to make a compelling application, so that you don't have to build all of those and think all of those from scratch. You have a library that you can put things quickly together, and then you can customize to get it to production. So here's a quick video of CARTO.js 4.0 and Airship working together. As you can see, as we filter, the map automatically adapts. That's basically pretty much out of the box with a few lines of code. And those are Airship components that have an impact on what you're seeing on the map. So there you go. Oh, it has a night mode too. Okay, so we've talked about how these are some of the things that we're doing to ensure developers can make LI apps faster. Improved imports, the developer center, CARTO.js 4.0, and Airship. Let's look at developing better and faster location intelligence apps. So there are two areas here where we're focusing, which are performance and scalability, and authentication and authorization. So performance and scalability is essential. If your application, you put it out there and cannot be used or it's slow, it doesn't matter how powerful the insights are. And authentication and authorization is a basic that anyone that's building applications needs to deal with. So talking about performance and scalability, I'm going to mention two things. One of them is the smart aggregations. This is something we've added to our Maps API in order to deal with large data sets. What happens with large data sets is when you have a high density of points is that in a map, a lot of them fall in the same pixel, basically. But still, all of the libraries in the background and all of the rendering needs to take care of those points. Even if they're all being rendered in the same place, they need to be processed. That adds huge overhead in order to render a map. So we've added a functionality where you can request the tiles in a way that if there are points that are in the same place, it will only render one point. That makes it so much faster for big data sets. And I encourage you to see Raul Ochoa's talk tomorrow. He's going to talk more about this and how to use it. And here's a quick animated GIF of how it works, so you get a picture. The idea there is that you can fine-tune what the right resolution is, how much you want to aggregate those points, so that you can fine-tune what you want to receive back. But we've seen huge improvements in terms of the size of the tiles that we're getting back with pretty much no change to the actual visualization. So it's a very powerful functionality that's now available on Maps API. Oops, that's not me. I lost my presentation, guys. Thank you. So if it's too boring, just tell me, and I'll stop. So the other thing in performance and scalability is vertical scalability. So again, at the heart of CARTO lies Postgres, the PostgreSQL, the database that we use for pretty much everything, and on top of which we run PostGIS, the geospatial engine for Postgres. And one of the great things about Postgres 10, the latest version of Postgres, is the ability to parallelize queries. So we've taken full advantage of all that functionality. We've been working on reviewing all of the code pretty much in CARTO to ensure that at every possible instance, we take advantage of parallelization. That means that, especially for things like widgets and that make queries across large data sets in order to render a histogram or something like that, we can improve the speed massively. And this then has triggered a huge migration of all of our customers in the cloud, that we're all sort of migrating them to Postgres 10. And this is pretty much, I would say, 90% of the customers are now in Postgres 10. And in the first week of June, 100% of our customers will be already in Postgres 10. So this has been a huge project, but it puts us in a much, much better position to attack many of the functionality that we have in our roadmap. And Postgres 10 was released at the beginning of this year, so we're working with them with the beta releases and the release candidates from before to be as ready as possible, and now we have it ready. I encourage you, if you're interested in this, I encourage you to look for this post in our Insight blog in CARTO. It explains the work we've done here by the core team, the core tech team at CARTO, which is, if you're a techie, a very interesting read. And actually, it says performance and scalability there, but it should say authentication and authorization. In that area, we've added as well fine-grained authorization. Until now, in CARTO, to build applications, we would give you an API key, and with that, you had to do everything. The problem with that is that when you had private data sets, you had to use a different method that needs setting up, and it was a bit complex, powerful but complex. So we've added a fine-grained user authorization, we call it the Auth API, by which you can say, okay, I want to provide access via SQL API for these data sets. That will give you a specific API key that you can use just for that. Or I want this data set to be available read-only through Maps API, and this other one you can write to through SQL API. So you can do all kinds of combinations. This is a huge step in terms of enabling different types of use cases for different types of data sets. And in authentication and authorization, we are going to tackle, and we're starting to work on that now, user authorization. So user authentication, sorry. What does that mean? Until now, when you build a location intelligence application with CARTO, this is more or less what happens. You have your CARTO account, and you build your application to access the data sets in the CARTO account. But if you needed user management, if you needed to be able to register users or log in users and all those things, you needed to do that separately. You needed to build your own. So we're bringing that functionality into CARTO as well. So you're going to be able to get user authentication out of the box. It'll be through OAuth, which is a standard for authentication and authorization. And essentially, it means that when a user registers, it will be registering against your CARTO account, and you don't have to worry about providing security or authentication, password resets. All of those things will be part of the functionality out of the box. It also opens the door to doing authorization, and all of those users will have access to shared data sets in your account. So you can have a database that it's in, or a data set in that account that the application, all of the users of the application can access, but then you can have a specific data sets for a specific users. So let's say that you are a bank, for instance, and you have different organizations across different regions. You could have the same application that's accessing different data sets for different regions and providing so that there's no people that don't need to see other information don't have access to it, and the opposite. So it opens the door to doing many more things with our data sets and our permissions. It also will provide mixed scenarios. You could build an application with a CARTO account and then have it used by a different CARTO account and the users of a different CARTO account. So you can take data from the CARTO account you built the application with, but also access a different CARTO account. This is very interesting for partners, for instance, that want to build something for multiple clients. And last but not least, through this mechanism, we'll be also enabling access to the premium data sets in Data Observatory at CARTO. We've been hearing about MasterCard, our foot traffic API. All of these data sets, there'll be premium data sets, and the usage of it will be triggered towards this mechanism, so that when the application, the first time you log in, it will tell you, do you want to use, we need access to your MasterCard, to the premium MasterCard data set, and then if they provide permission, then we can provide the access and tracking and metrics and so on. So this is a very exciting, it's very early days still, but very exciting project for us this year. So this was a long one. The areas or the improvements that we're working on in order to develop we enable our users and partners to develop better and faster LI apps, our smart aggregations, vertical scalability, fine-grained authorization, and user authentication. And then now, for the last one, is how we ensure that through CARTO Engine, the location intelligence applications can produce deeper insights. So 3 areas where we're working on. One of them is how providing access to relevant high-quality data. Visualization capabilities, of course, because you need to have all the tricks, all the geographic tricks in order to put those insights so that anyone can understand them. And of course, the analysis capabilities, which is what will eventually extract those insights from the high-quality data. Location data streams. This is something Javier was alluding to this morning. This is a huge area of interest for us now. This sort of real-time census almost that Javier was talking about is really important for us, and we're working. The first thing you will see available, it's what we call our data API, by which you'll have access to these data sets that you'll be able to get tiles for your maps that already have information not only about what you're asking for specifically, but you can enrich it with, for instance, let's say demographics or financial transactions or whatever you need in the same location. So this is a very powerful tool in our box that will be out very soon. The analysis framework. So if you've used Builder, Builder allows you to chain analysis, chain nodes. You can start with a data set, you add a geocoding, which is an analysis in CARTO. You can then add a centroid analysis or buffer or whatever you need to add. So we've taken all of that and all of the things we've learned from that, and we are starting to work on making it available on Engine in such a way that it doesn't have to be part of your normal usage. It can be, or your interactive usage. It can be batch processing as well, so that you can get a set of analysis chained and ready, and they can run when you need them to. You can schedule them to be run at certain times, or when the result of a query changes, and all of those will run, and they'll be accessible through the APIs of Engine. So you can make your sort of complex analysis and have them living in CARTO, and you have to worry about hosting those applications. So this is what you're seeing there is CARTO Frames. CARTO Frames is going to be the main interface to generating those analyses and taking advantage of those when you're creating them, but then you'll be able to persist them in CARTO and use them from your location intelligence applications. And lastly, CARTO VL. Javier talked about this today. We're so excited about CARTO VL. It's been months in the making. The amount of control that CARTO VL is going to give developers in order to do incredibly responsive applications, the level of cartography that you're going to be able to do and interaction and stories because of how seamless the animations are, it's amazing. And it's in public beta right now. It'd be great if you could test it out. We're super excited about this, and I'm going to show you some things about this to finish. But just to summarize, these are the things that we're doing in order to enable the ability to produce deeper insights: location data streams, analysis framework, and CARTO VL. So that's it. That's Engine in 2018. Those are the main things we're trying to get right this year. I would love it if you would come by and tell me, if all of this or any of this or nothing of this resonates, and what other things you'd like to see in CARTO. And basically, this is what we're focusing on this year. The three things that are driving all our product efforts in Engine are to enable development of LI apps faster, better and faster LI apps, and producing deeper insights. I'm going to leave you with a quick demo, a quick video about the kinds of things that you can do with CARTO VL. And this is a video that it's been done by Ariana, one of our designers, and the design team, and Mamata, and the CoreSec team, and basically it's just a pleasure to watch. It looks better on the browser than here, but still pretty impressive here. Thank you very much.